Don't wake up calm, I wake up charged, heart on fire, head too large.
Hello, Asylumus. It is I, Tyler, otherwise known as the Asylum Reaper, and welcome back to the bright lobbies of my asylum. It's been a long time since we've been here. Take in the atmosphere, soak it in, drink it in, man. It's gonna be great. We're doing a tier list. Not just one after playing a game. No, it has been so long. In fact, they're not even up on my channel anymore. My old tier lists. It has been that long. We are going to be doing 3 different tier lists today. All Resident Evil themed. We're going to be doing this first one here is movies and TV shows. I have the ranking set up as follows. At the tippity top, we have the 10 out of 10s. Below that, they put in effort. And then right in the middle, we have watchable. You know, the type of movies that you don't really like, but if they came on, you wouldn't necessarily change the channel or, you know, complain. Beneath that, you just have your general awful movies. Terrible. And bottom of the barrel, wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy. Now, this is probably going to be a shorter video, maybe around 20-30 minutes long. I hope you all enjoy. Now, these are my opinions. I want to preference that. I am a big fan of Resident Evil. That does not make me the king of knowledge. That does not mean that my opinion is the be-all, end-all of the subject. I just want that to be known. Thank you all, Asylumists. Let us begin. Now, we're starting off. These are every single live-action and animated film, and including the TV show. Now, we're going to get right off the bat. I'm going to take that TV show. I would not wish that TV show upon my worst enemy. Period. I have nothing more to say on the topic. If you don't believe me, please watch at your own discretion, but make sure that you have watched the games, or watched somebody play the games, and or played them yourself, and then watch that TV show. Do you hear how I sound? Yeah. They might as well have called that something else entirely, because that is not Resident Evil. Now, moving on to films that are actually decent and or not that garbage. The very first Paul W.S. Anderson Resident Evil from 2002. I will say, out of all of the Aliceverse movies, this is probably the best Aliceverse movie. I will put it in, they put in effort. They did try. It didn't have any characters from the games. It did feature the Spencer Mansion. They did do they had a liquor. They tied in the T-Virus, the Hive, and, well, that's about it. Out of all of them, it's probably one of the most enjoyable films out of the bunch. But with that being said, let's move on to the sequel, the first sequel, the first Paul W.S. Anderson sequel. I don't remember if this one was directed by him, or I'm pretty sure he directed them all. But don't take me on that. I'll have to look that up and do my research later. I'm coming right off of finishing RE7. My personal preference for Apocalypse. I will also say, this is still when they were putting in effort. I will say that. However, the quality did decline from the first film, and it only gets so much worse after the fact. Now, if you came here for me to talk about things that happened in these films, you're sadly mistaken. I don't like spoilers myself. I know some of you in my audience have not seen these films. I get that it's an old film. That doesn't matter to me. People should be allowed to watch things at their own pace. There are movies that are so old that I've never seen. But anyway, then we have Extinction. Oh, going back to Apocalypse, I will mention characters that they introduced. They did introduce Jill, Carlos, very poor attempt at Nikolai. I mean, I have another tier list that we're going to do in this video that's just video game characters that are in the films, and my opinion on the casting. We'll talk about that in a minute. We'll probably do that one next, and then I'll do the game characters last. and I couldn't find an enemy tier list, and I wasn't about to sit down and take the time to make one, so forgive me on that, but bear with me. Then we go to Extinction. Characters that they introduced in Extinction. Claire Redfield. And Albert Wesker. Yep. I think Albert Wesker was at the very end credit scene of Extinction. Extinction, it's watchable. Like, if it came on, I wouldn't change the channel. Me personally. I don't mind it. Resident Evil Degeneration. Now, the animated films are actually legitimately canon to the story of the mainline Resident Evil games. So bear in mind with me, these are just my opinions on the films themselves. All of the animated films are spectacular. None of them are going to be in anything but the top 2 tiers. But for me personally, Degeneration, I would put personally beneath the first Alice Fish movie. Don't skin me alive. I'm entitled to my opinion. Resident Evil Afterlife. This is where I get filleted and skinned alive again. I wouldn't say they put in effort, but in terms of me enjoying the film, Afterlife is one of my favorite Aliceverse movies, and it's not a good movie. It's bad, I'll say that. Video game characters that they attempted to introduce in Afterlife. They had the Executioner zombie. I believe they had the Magini as well. In Afterlife. Am I correct? I believe I'm correct in that. There were a couple Cerberus in the first game, or the first film. There were some more Lickers in Resident Evil 2 Apocalypse. Obviously, Nemesis was in Resident Evil 2 Apocalypse. I think they made an attempt on a Tyrant in Extinction. And then Afterlife was Wesker. But they did introduce Chris Redfield, and we'll talk about that casting choice when we get there. Now we get into the bad. Oh, the very, very bad. The worst of the worst. Resident Evil. I forget what the name of this one is. Is it Resurrection? I believe it's Resurrection. It is an awful movie. They tried to introduce Leon Kennedy, Barry Burton. They reintroduced Blonde Jill from 5 with the red gem. On top of that, they also introduced Ada Wong. And I friggin' hate Ada. I hate Ada. We'll talk about that. I hate Ada. Despise Ada. We'll talk about that. Resident Evil Damnation. I will put Damnation above RE0. Or I keep wanting to say RE0 when I talk about the first Resident Evil film. I have nothing to say about the final chapter. Absolutely nothing. Death Island. Or is this Vendetta? I'm not seeing Dead Island or Death Island. Not Dead Island, guys. Death Island. I'm not seeing Death Island on this list. But Resident Evil Vendetta is a 10 out of 10 film. I'm not going to say a thing. Go watch Vendetta. It's great. Awesome. Phenomenal film. Now, I believe this is a TV show. It was good. I would put it beneath Damnation, though, for me personally. I believe that's Infinite Darkness. It was an alright film. No, I think it was like a 4-episode. It was like a mini-series. It is... It's pretty good. I would put Death Island up here in 10 out of 10 as well. And, controversial take. Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City is, in my personal opinion, and probably I know for a fact that I'm likely not alone in this opinion, it is the best Resident Evil film that is live action that we have ever gotten. Ever. Now, that is how I feel about the films, Asylumus. Now, you're gonna see a cut, and we're gonna talk about the casting characters of the video game, the casting of the video game characters in these live action films. And I'll see you there. Here we are. Now I've already got this set up. We have at the top perfect casting, good enough, meh, did they even try, and then just right at the bottom a flat out why. Now right away I'm going to go ahead and take this character from the TV show. I'm going to throw him in why. I'm going to zoom in just a bit. That is supposed to be Albert Wesker in the Resident Evil TV show. Why? Actor is great. Love the actor. He passed away shortly after this TV show. Good actor. Nothing against the actor. Casting him as Albert Wesker, I don't think works. I genuinely don't. Moving on to Jill Valentine. Now, this is Jill Valentine from the Aliceverse. I would say good enough. It works. It's decent. I wouldn't say it's perfect casting, but it genuinely, she does a great job, and at least they wrote Jill's character somewhat believable for the Aliceverse. I have no complaints. And Jill is my favorite RE character out of like the big four. Carlos. Now, I understand that the appearance is meant to be based on the original RE3's Carlos, and Ahmed Fad, or however you pronounce his name, is a phenomenal actor. I loved his performance in The Mummy and The Mummy 2. However, as Carlos, I just can't buy it. But I don't dislike his portrayal of Carlos either. I will throw him in meh. Claire Redfield. I'm going to say that their casting for Claire Redfield in the Aliceverse was good enough. I think, personally, she looked a bit too old. I have nothing against these actresses, by the way, or actors. This is not me sitting here ranking the actors' skills. I understand that they were given a script, they were given their lines of dialogue, and it was up to the director and set producers as to costume design and any other aspect of the filmmaking process that revolves around what the character acts and or looks like. I get that. But that is my opinion on the live action Claire Redfield. Chris Redfield. Now, I have nothing, absolutely nothing, against Wentworth Miller. Loved him in the Arrowverse, or the CW-verse. Phenomenal portrayal of Captain Cold. Obviously, if you've ever watched Prison Break, people love him from there. But as Chris Redfield, did they even try? Like, there's somebody else from the CW-verse, from the Arrowverse, that appears later in this exact tier list that is getting a perfect casting for me. And we'll go ahead and do him right now. This is Chris Redfield from Welcome to Raccoon City, being portrayed by Robbie Amell. 10 out of 10, beautiful, perfect casting. At the very least for the Resident Evil 1 Chris Redfield that they were going for. Because Welcome to Raccoon City tries to take the plot of 1 and 2 and throw them together, even though it would have made a lot more sense to throw the plot of 2 and 3 together, because they are taking place at the same time, and 1 took place 2 months prior, but you catch my drift. He portrayed Firestorm in the CW-verse, and he did a decent job, but perfect casting as Chris. Moving on to Albert Wesker from the Aliceverse, I would put him as, at the time, perfect casting. If they were to redo Wesker's character now, I would say take Anthony Starr, the actor that plays Homelander. That would be chef's kiss, perfect 10 out of 10 casting. Leon Kennedy from the Aliceverse. Did they even try? I do not know that actor's name. I don't think I would have known him from anywhere else. The way that he portrayed Leon felt more like an after RE4 style Leon. Now, granted, the events of the world happen very differently in the Aliceverse than they do in the games. In the Aliceverse, the entire world gets overrun. I don't believe that ever truly happens in the video games. It's always pretty much location-centered. So, with that being said, the actor in the same film, Barry Burton. I would say that was a perfect casting for Barry Burton. Now, you guys didn't get to see Barry Burton in my playthrough of RE1 because I did a Chris playthrough. There is really no difference aside from inventory, and instead of Rebecca, you get Barry Burton in the Jill playthrough. So, with that being said, all you need to know is that the Aliceverse version of Barry Burton, why did I say Bill Burton, is a perfect casting in my opinion. He portrays the character very well, and granted, given the fact that in the games he's only in 1 and Revelations 2, which you know my opinion about that at this point. There's not a whole lot to go off of for what Barry's like as a person, so I can appreciate how they wrote his character. I think it's perfect. Moving on to Ada Wong. Good enough. I would say good enough. I could see there being better actresses to play or portray that character. I didn't like the way that they wrote her character. Actually, no, I should say this. I appreciate the way that they wrote her character in the Aliceverse. I actually don't mind Ada in the Aliceverse. Nothing to complain about. Moving on. Leon Kennedy in Welcome to Raccoon City. Controversial opinion, I actually don't mind him playing Leon. I don't know his name, but I know he played Jade's boyfriend in Victorious. He didn't do a bad job, especially for what they were going for, which was a rookie cop RE2, hung over after just getting broken up with by his girlfriend, so that's why he was late to the RPD. He did a great job. He did a phenomenal job. Now, moving on to one of the very few other 10 out of 10 castings, perfect castings. Claire Redfield. I don't understand how they managed to do this in Welcome to Raccoon City, but they nailed both Chris and Claire Redfield to a T. And I do not say this lightly. The only other, cast... In fact, I would say she is cast even better than Chris, in my personal opinion, because they could have gotten somebody else who could have done Chris very well. Names that come to mind immediately, and some of you might disagree with me. Robbie Amell's brother, even, Stephen Amell, could have possibly portrayed a good Chris Redfield. But no, the actress that plays Claire Redfield in Welcome to Raccoon City, I know she was in The Maze Runner. I also love the Maze Runner movies. Just a quick tidbit, throwing that in there. Hail Mary. She perfect casting. I literally cannot think of anybody better to portray that character. It really fits I'm just the younger sister of a essentially police force special ops special tactics and research services, which is STARS. The actress that plays Jill Valentine in Welcome to Raccoon City, with Jill Valentine being my absolute favorite Resident Evil character. Why? I have nothing against the actress. Again, she plays Ghost in the MCU. I just can't see her as Jill Valentine. It doesn't work for me. The lines of dialogue that they gave her don't fit what I deem her personality to be. Okay, not even what I deem her personality to be. What I take away from her personality on screen through the dialogue in the games. And another thing, I'm going to go ahead and say, did they even try for Albert Wesker in Welcome to Raccoon City? Nothing against the actor. I think he could have done personally pretty good. It's just he doesn't necessarily look like Albert Wesker. And again, they tried to change the story ever so slightly to make it fit better. He doesn't seem to really have the motivations or feel of an Albert Wesker. That's all I really have to say on him. Ada Wong from Welcome to Raccoon City, who only appears at the very end of the film to give Wesker his signature shades. I'm putting that in did they even try? We only get to see her for like 2, maybe 4 minutes max at the end of the film. She doesn't do anything. Her motivations really fit, but it's just the casting, yeah. Dr. Isaacs, or not Isaacs, who is it? Dr. Birkin. William Birkin. And you know what? I'm going to put him at the top of good enough. Another phenomenal actor, straight from the CW-verse, who portrayed Damien Dark in the Arrowverse and subsequent CW-verse for the basically DC universe that they were doing there. Phenomenal actor. Wonderful actor. Yeah, I think he's done a lot of great work in a lot of great films. But those are the only few that come to my mind right this second. They could have done better. I think they did good enough. We only get William Birkin in one game, and he gets infected with the G virus and becomes the, what's it called? The G-type? I think that's what they called it in-game. The G-type. Sorry, I'm yawning. And the only other video game character in the live-action films is they did Chief Irons. And I'm going to throw him in meh. I think the actor could have done phenomenal. The only issue that I have with Chief Irons in the film is they really diverted what his character was. He was not a good person. He was not on the side of good. He was a very sick and twisted man. And they really missed the ball with that. Other characters that weren't in this list that were included in Welcome to Raccoon City, you had Brad Vickers. I don't have a whole lot to say about him. Casting was alright. I don't know the name of the actor specifically. Who else was in Welcome to Raccoon City? I don't think there was anybody else. Oh, Sherry Birkin and Annette Birkin. Sherry Birkin and Annette Birkin, both fine, in my opinion. I can't really think of them off the top of my head. Also, at the very beginning of Welcome to Raccoon City, the actor that plays the truck driver that accidentally hits the zombie at the beginning of 2, that was good casting there as well. Anyway, Asylumists, thank you all for stepping into my bright lobbies of my asylum today. If you enjoy this, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that little bell icon to be notified of whenever I upload in the future. And as always, thank you for stepping into my asylum, and I welcome you all to come back to the bright lobbies whenever you guys want to. I'll see you next time.
Watch me make noise doing what I do. This that hype, hype, hype. Hit the chair.